What's up, what's going on, legends? It's your boy Errl Shatter here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the UZI here in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It recently got an update with update 1.07, which we're going to talk about as well. But before we get into the rest of the content, if you guys do enjoy this video at any time, make sure you guys go down below and smash that like button. Let's go ahead and throw that goal of 50 likes on today's video. Also, if you guys are interested in finding your way back to the channel, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 3,000 subscribers, less than 120 to go. You guys have been incredible, so make sure you guys smash that subscribe button so you guys can be a part of that, and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. A few cool things about the UZI. This is actually the first time that the UZI was featured in a Modern Warfare title. It was featured in Black Ops 1, which is pretty cool. Now, we have had a version of the UZI in the past too, which is the Mini UZI, which was seen in Call of Duty 4 or Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, as well as Modern Warfare 2. And also something I didn't know that I learned while looking up information for this video was that it was meant to be in Modern Warfare 3, but was later cut, and obviously the textures can still be found in the files, but it was most likely replaced by the PM9. Originally, when I found out the UZI was in Modern Warfare, I was extremely excited. I had used the Mini UZI, obviously, in, like I said, COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2, and I had fun. Although that weapon has never been the best, it's always been a blast to run. I've always liked using different weapons, things that you don't typically see people use, and the Mini UZI has always really appealed to me. Being that the UZI is so small, the mobility is obviously super high. You're able to run and gun pretty successfully with this weapon, but you do have to keep it close quarters. Honestly, that's what makes it so tough to use them here in Modern Warfare. I think this gun is very good, but obviously, being that it's so hard to keep close quarters engagements constant, it definitely makes the UZI much more of a challenge to use here in Modern Warfare. You really have to plan according to the gun you're using. For example, if you're playing ground war like I am in this particular gameplay, I obviously stuck to the buildings, especially here on Karst River Quarry, between obviously C, B, and then sometimes I would even trail off over to D, but trying to keep those close quarters engagements is really important when using this weapon. The more long distance engagements you find, the more likely you are to probably not succeed in the gunfight, and overall the more frustrating this weapon will be. I tried using the UZI before the update, which gave it a buff, and it was a pain to use. I had a lot of fun running around with it. Obviously, I was getting some decent kills. Engagements were a little rough though, being that everybody runs the M4A1, the 725, things that are just a little bit overpowered, where the UZI just doesn't seem overpowered at all. It can kind of be underwhelming. You get into a gunfight with an M4, you shoot them first, you're probably still going to get beat in the gunfight. Obviously, if you run into a 725, there's no hope regardless of the gun you're using. But just based on the meta that people are using for this game at this point, the UZI before the update was just absolutely a tough time. It was not easy to win your gunfights. You basically had to shoot people who weren't shooting at you whatsoever. It without a doubt made leveling up this weapon more of a challenge than I'd hoped, and it led to me kind of pushing this weapon to the side for a little bit. But then update 1.07 came out. This update introduced a buff in which increased the damage range for the UZI. Now, basically using the weapon before the update, the one thing I felt like it was lacking was the damage range. So it was good that they kind of hit this where it needed it, and I feel like the weapon overall became significantly better. It was easy to notice within my first few matches of trying this again after the update that I was able to actually take people down. Didn't feel like I was losing as many gunfights against the M4 when shooting first. I was able to pretty much capitalize on the ability to dominate the close quarters area. Damage range is huge for this gun. Obviously, if you're sitting there having to shoot people with a ton of extra bullets, whereas they can only 2 or 3 shot you, you're really not standing much of a chance. It makes the UZI kind of unusable, but with this buff, I can say it's definitely improved. It was noticeably better, and I feel like now the UZI is more of a competitive weapon. Obviously, if you still come in close quarters with something like the MP7, maybe the MP5, or of course the M4, you're going to have a challenge in front of you, but it doesn't mean that you can't overcome that challenge. Now, the UZI is the first SMG that I managed to max level. It took me a while, of course, but obviously being able to get access to all the attachments was the most ideal way to discover the best way to use this weapon. We're going to go over the class setup I had the most success with, the class setup I would consider to be the best. More than likely, this will be the setup that I continue to use until I get this weapon gold, which is something I plan on doing. Of course, if you guys are also going for Damascus camo, you're going to want to use this class setup to unlock your gold for the UZI. I will say, however, I do believe that the UZI might be one of the more difficult SMGs to complete gold with. Not to say that it's going to be hard across the board, it's just definitely not going to be as easy as maybe the MP5 or the MP7. I'm going to go ahead and throw the class setup on screen so you guys get a little bit of a visual as we go over the attachments that we're using in this best class setup. The first attachment that we're using is going to be our barrel. We are using the 16.5-inch factory carbine, which increases damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. It does, however, decrease ADS speed and movement speed. Due to the mobility of this weapon, the movement speed is really hardly noticeable at all. Honestly, after getting this barrel unlocked and equipping it, I had the most success that I had with this weapon. So I believe that this is probably the most useful attachment as far as what's important. So you guys are going to want to make sure that you guys are running this barrel. If you want to be successful, especially due to the amount of engagements that you get that aren't always close quarters. When I was first using the UZI, I was running iron sights only. It was running pretty well. Things were really good, but I just felt like because of the medium range engagements, wanting to be accurate due to the fact that this weapon isn't super dominant at those ranges, I decided to add a GI mini reflex. For me personally, I love the smaller sights. I don't like the big old holographic. I don't really care for the ACOGs, things of that nature. I typically stay towards the mini reflex or the smaller sights in general, but I found way more success while running it on this weapon than I thought. It was helping me with my accuracy. Obviously, again, in those medium range engagements, you are typically going to want to be as accurate as possible. For our underbarrel attachment, we are using the Commando foregrip. This increases recoil stabilization and aiming stability, but does again decrease movement speed. However, like I said earlier, the mobility of this weapon is really high, so you're not going to notice a whole lot as far as the decrease in movement speed between this and the barrel. And overall, it does play into the success of the weapon, so you're going to want to run these attachments anyway. For our rear grip, we are running the stippled grip tape. This increases ADS speed and sprint to fire speed, but decreases aim stability. Obviously, with our underbarrel, we did increase our aim stability a little bit, so we might just kind of cancel it out by running the rear grip tape. However, we did get that increase in ADS speed, which is super helpful with this weapon, as hitting first shots is kind of important, and then the sprint to fire speed obviously is ideal as well. Due to the mobility of this weapon, you're likely going to be running and gunning a lot. Getting a little bit faster sprint to fire speed is going to increase your chances of winning your gunfights, and of course, encourage you to continue to run and gun, which is not something that is very highly encouraged here in Modern Warfare. Now, the last thing that we are running on our UZI is going to be a perk, of course. We are running sleight of hand, which, if you guys are unfamiliar with, it gives you training and faster reloading when under pressure. So obviously, you're going to be able to get those reloads in a quicker amount of time. The thing with this weapon is I tried using a 40-round magazine. There is also a 50-round magazine. After trying out the 40-round magazine for some time and then switching to no magazine but using sleight of hand, I found a lot more use out of having sleight of hand. Of course, if you're able to reload quick, you're going to have another full magazine with 32 rounds, which I feel like balances out way better than having an extra 8 rounds and then having to reload at a normal speed instead. Having 32 rounds is pretty solid. You're going to be able to take out quite a few people, especially depending on how accurate you are. But most importantly, being in those tough gunfights, being close quarters all the time, you're probably going to find a lot more engagements than you normally would, just for the simple fact that you're, of course, forcing yourself to stay in those close quarter engagements. That's going to mean reloading quick is probably going to save your life a lot more than having that 8 extra bullets, depending on how many people you actually run into. But for me, like I said, the most success I had was while using sleight of hand instead of that 40-round magazine. You guys are obviously allowed to switch it up, try things out. Maybe try the 50-round mag if you don't think the mobility will be too effective for you. But I do think this sleight of hand is by far the best option, especially since you're going to be able to jump back into those engagements much quicker. Another cool thing about the UZI here in Modern Warfare is having the ability to build a very small version of this weapon with super high mobility, essentially reminding me of the mini UZI from past Call of Duty titles. And the benefit to this would be, of course, having a very useful run and gun setup, alongside being able to dominate close quarters engagements. For a map such as the new map Shoot House, it would be very good. I believe if we build a class with the highest mobility, we would have some extreme success on a map such as that, which we will probably do for a later video. We'll put together the smallest version of this weapon with the most mobility and just go out there and see how well we can dominate our opponents. Across the board, I believe that the UZI is a very stable weapon. It is useful. You can dominate your opponents. You're just going to want to make sure you plan your playstyle based off its strengths. You're going to want to remain in those close quarters engagements. Give this weapon the best chance for success. The more medium to long range engagements you run into, the more frustrating this weapon will likely be, and the less fun you'll have while trying to go for gold, or even Damascus if that's something you are working towards. Now that's going to wrap things up for today's video. If you guys did enjoy this content at any time, or you felt like this video helped you in any way, make sure you guys go down below and show your support for the channel by smashing that like button. Like I said earlier in the video, we do have that goal of 50 likes. Also, we are closing in on 3,000 subscribers, so if you guys want to be a part of that journey, make sure you guys do smash that subscribe button alongside that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. Appreciate you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support on the channel, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace!